All right, folks, next week, Mercury conjuncts Venus on the 11th in Aries. Mercury is direct, practically stationary. Venus is retrograde. They conjunct on the 11th. On the 12th, the Sun conjuncts Saturn in Pisces. On the 13th, we have the full moon lunar eclipse in Virgo opposite Saturn. On the 14th, Mercury goes retrograde. When we look at the following week, which I want to do briefly, on the 17th, the Sun conjuncts the North Node. And on the 19th, the Sun conjuncts Neptune. And on the 20th, the Sun moves into Aries. So this week, and I have to tell you, I've already been prepping you for this week's energy with last week's weekly overview. We looked at this week's energy as well with last week's weekly overview. Plus, I've already done the full moon lunar eclipse in Virgo video. It's already there on the free part of this chart. And that is the big event next week with Mercury going retrograde. So in the Aries part of the chart, Mercury and Venus conjunct. The Sun conjuncts Saturn. The very next day, we have a full moon lunar eclipse opposite the Sun, of course, and Saturn. And then the day after that, Mercury goes retrograde. Next week, the Sun continues his conjunctions with the North Node and with Neptune. The Sun is the prime mover over the next 2 weeks in the Pisces part of the chart, and this is what we would expect. This coming week is the more intense week because the Sun conjuncts Saturn, which is a heavy planet, and the full moon lunar eclipse happens opposing that Sun-Saturn conjunction. This is a week where you have to show up to whatever you're showing up to, but especially to stabilizing the Pisces part of the chart with total integrity, responsibility, and in a disciplined manner with every intention of facing the music, if there's music to be faced, if there are consequences to be faced because we've been foggy or not on top of things or not on top of our own boundaries, and so we're dealing with some sort of deception, or we've been the ones who've been a little bit deceptive, or we're feeling the pressure to really deliver on some clear plans about our Neptunian ambitions in the Pisces part of the chart. This is the week where that is put to the test. And the thing to watch out for that will require a Saturnian energy from your part, because to not get reactive, is that with Mercury now stationary, it's very likely that the communication and cognition compass is going to spin. You have to go into this week expecting that it is likely going to be a challenging week and that you need to keep your cool. And some of it is going to be Mercury being the prankster when he goes stationary. Classic examples of this, of course, are a flight at 6 a.m., but you accidentally read 6 p.m. And when you get to the airport, you can't believe you read 6 p.m. instead of 6 a.m. And now what are you going to do? The flight left earlier this morning. Or the bags getting lost. Or the Uber or the Lyft or the bus or the metro taking forever to come. Or all of a sudden you thought you left time for something and it was still not enough time. Traffic jams. Loopy things. Typically, you catch the metro from some station, but there's a detour and you didn't know, and now that adds time. Technology breakdowns, technology breakdowns, technology breakdowns. But also with Mercury stationary, watch out for things coming up this week that may feel like a reality check on something you were planning to move ahead on that gives you a clearer picture, disappointing or otherwise, often disappointing, but one that you really need. It could be that you're moving forward based on some assumptions, and Mercury going retrograde decides, I need you to know and understand this, about this. But somewhere about our cognition compass, something about it spins. Mercury conjunct Venus is the one, but again, it comes with a fly in the ointment because Venus is retrograde. You may be in a space in the Aries part of the chart, and the Aries part of the chart is what, till the end of the first week of June, it's the Aries, Taurus, and Gemini parts of the chart in that order that reflect where we're trying to go, where we're trying to head, where the excitement is, where the opportunity is, where the opportunity for growth is, where the spontaneity is, where the adventure is, where some of the risk is, where the life is, where exciting things are, what we're trying to get to. And both Mercury and Venus, as I've told you before, don't get past the 10-degree mark, but they go retrograde. And then they retrograde back into Pisces in April, and then they go direct and they come back into Aries direct. The new moon solar eclipse that happens in Aries on March the 29th happens at roughly the 10-degree spot, moving the energy forward. So Mercury conjuncting a retrograde Venus could be that somewhere you're thinking or communicating or acting on or planning on austerity measures, financial or relationship-wise. What do I need to do to align my resources and my expenses and my lifestyle and my relationships so that I am aligned in the direction that is of value to me? What am I trying to get to? And am I contracted to? Are the right people in the boat with me? And are my resources aligned in such a way that I'm spending money on what I value and what is actually helping me to get to where I need to get to, as opposed to spending money or expenses in directions that are not leading you in that direction, not conducive of the lifestyle that you're trying to get to. And that is a very important distinction, because then that helps you decide, well, what is actually helping me and what is something I'm not using or that I don't need. If I am carrying a $200 dry cleaning bill every month out of force of habit, but I am working from home more and so I don't need to, or something. That's not a great example, but you know what I mean. It's just like, do I need to? What needs to be brought into alignment? So one part of this with the Mercury-Venus retrograde conjunction could be thinking ahead. Well, that's where I want to go. So what do I need to do with my resource management and my relationship management so that I can comfortably, after the planets are direct and they move into Aries and we start to move forward, and especially move forward in May and June, I'm moving forward in a more aligned manner. The other thing that could come up with Mercury and Venus retrograde is an opportunity that indicates that kind of forward movement and momentum, but is somehow conditional. You're aware that you can't get to it until certain things are cleaned up and sorted out. But it's the one aspect next week that is not related to the sign of Pisces, except the only thing it is related to is whatever's going to happen in the sign of Aries and how you're going to move forward in Aries and Taurus and Gemini. The forward movement, the exciting, the moving towards what you want can only occur once the Pisces part of the chart is stabilized as much as possible through action in March, particularly over the next 2 weeks, as the Sun conjuncts Saturn and the North Node and Neptune. And especially in the next week, there's a real urgency, but there's also an awareness. Some of us are going to regret that we did not take care of certain things in January when Venus was going over Pisces and she was going to make things easier. But now we have to act because Saturn is in the mix and the Sun and Saturn are conjuncting. And for some of us, the urgency could come from, if I don't get on this now, this could blow up in my face. I could miss that deadline. Oh, that grant is really important to me. Oh, if I don't pay this now, so-and-so will come after me. Or if I don't start proactively reach out and make the adjustment, if I don't tell my boss, I'm so sorry, or my advisor, I said I would have this paper by this time, but I'm going to have it by this. If we don't proactively reset boundaries, if we don't act responsibly, maturely, in a disciplined manner, show up as the best part of ourselves, and take responsibility for the results of the actions that we have created, but also provide solutions and move forward. The Sun's conjunction with Saturn and the full moon lunar eclipse in Virgo opposing Saturn could have something imposed on us. And we may feel compelled then with the full moon in Virgo to protect the Virgo part of the chart from these consequences. Or the Virgo part of the chart calls for more balance between these two opposing houses, the house occupied by Pisces, where we are taking action to stabilize that part of the chart. But the Virgo part of the chart says, but remember, I'm still here. Now, as I said, I've already done the Virgo full moon lunar eclipse video over the past couple of days. I'll put a link to that at the end of this video. I'm realizing that I haven't done a certain amount of housekeeping. There are 3 ways to avail of my services. You can watch the videos that I do for free. You can become a member and get sign-specific videos and astrological instruction videos. This is just about 3 weeks old. I've already done sign-specific videos for the Pisces new moon. I'm in the process of doing sign-specific videos for the Virgo full moon lunar eclipse, and next I'm going to move to sign-specific videos for the Aries new moon solar eclipse. So for a nominal fee of $6.99 a month or something like that, US dollars, you can avail of sign-specific content. You must view the content for your rising sign. If you choose to view it for your sun or moon or Venus, that's up to you. But you have to view it for your rising sign. And the third way to engage with me, of course, is to get a personal reading with me. Information on memberships and the email address to contact me are in the description box below. I am offering a couple of discounted specials, a 30 to 40 minute reading centered around one topic for $50, and a 60 to 75 minute reading centered around the astrology of March and April, the eclipses and Mercury and Venus retrograde, and how that relates to your birth chart for $100. My normal readings are there too. If you email me, I'll give you that information. Sorry, I wanted to get that out there. But especially my mind went to some of the stuff I was saying and what I'm saying in the sign-specific videos, because I'm in the middle of doing that. This idea, and the full moon Virgo lunar eclipse will likely show up as a full moon, which means that matters related to that house are assertive, and also a South Node lunar eclipse, an awareness of what needs to be released in that part of the chart. Again, this has been covered in greater detail in the full moon lunar eclipse video that I did a couple of days ago. It's free content. So Mercury direct conjuncts, or practically stationary, conjuncts a retrograde Venus on the 11th. The Sun conjuncts Saturn on the 12th. Total awareness of responsible, disciplined, mature action to stabilize the Pisces part of the chart. And then the Virgo full moon lunar eclipse happens. An assertion as a full moon. If you've been negligent, it's very likely that this week we might deal with some situations that we're trying to bring clarity and stabilization to that are affected by a stationary Mercury. That a stationary Mercury creates misunderstanding, crossed wires, poor timing, things start to get out of hand, dealing with someone who's a bit of a hard ass, so to speak, who, we are the one, So there's an element of trying to, this is why I was saying, be in communication last week if you can, to try and manage certain things. Because this week, it could be one of those situations. Now, will things get sorted out? Very likely. Now, it depends on what the situation is that you're dealing with. But there's things to indicate that as you're dealing with things, as Mercury is going retrograde, by the time Mercury is going direct, or even once the actual stationariness of Mercury is behind us, things can ease up. But there's every indication going into this Thursday full moon lunar that something could just become more complicated and more challenging and more. If you go into this week expecting it to be challenging, you will likely meet, and if you know that your strategy needs to be show up in the most Saturn happy manner, discipline, responsibility, awareness of cause and effect, a desire to resolve things proactively. If it is around something exciting like getting things done professionally, meeting deadlines, concretizing Neptunian plans, going after what it is that you want, something creative, something musical, something therapeutic, something monastic, something spiritual, something that helps the collective. There could be something that's coming up that really demands and asks you to put those plans together and get cracking on them. And on the 14th, Mercury goes retrograde, starting a 3-week period that, outside of the Mercury retrograde shenanigans, is going to clarify something for us. Mercury says, I'm not moving forward. I'm reversing because there's something that you need to get clear on. There's something I need you to see. There are certain assumptions that you're moving forward on that are built on pillars of sand, and I've got to tell you what has legs and what does not have legs. Show up with every intention, starting, today is Sunday, starting Monday morning, to handle matters. And prepare that some of the communications might be goofy, and this will have to be done again, and this will have to be done again, and you're dealing with someone who's just... And I've given you examples of Mercury retrograde conversations where it's just like, well, I'm saying this isn't possible. I'm saying that this is what I have. And you keep telling me, like, so just what is important is to be in communication on the things that we need to be important in communication on. And to, if things go awry, to figure out how we're going to patiently and gently get to a place of compromise. Some people would say, try and avoid those conversations next week. For me, because of Saturn's involvement, it's a kind of a potent cocktail. I don't think you can avoid the conversations, and I think avoiding conversations could be, depending on the situation, risky, because it can mean that if you are burying your head in the sand on something that you need to take responsibility on, Saturn could just as easily provide a confusing, complicated outcome that you then have to battle, as opposed to if you get in front of it proactively tomorrow or day after, start that process. The conversations may be complicated, but at least you're in that conversation and something is not happening to you that you then have to be like, oh my God, I've got to protect my income, or oh my God, I've got to protect this, or I've got to protect that. That's it. That's it. That's it. The agenda is stabilizing the Pisces part of the chart. We're in the month of Pisces. We do have that Aries, Mercury conjunct Venus, but then we have a Virgo full moon lunar eclipse. And the ruler of that lunar eclipse, Virgo, Mercury, is stationary. Which is a real doozy. So matters related to this, every indication that things that come up around this full moon are likely going to move towards resolution after Mercury is direct and starts to gain some traction. Maybe when Mercury comes into Aries, maybe after April the 15th, or as you head into May. But I think that given the opposition to Saturn, I think that ignoring responsibilities and responsible actions might be a mistake. You gauge that based on your situation. I think that given these two scenarios of putting the head in the sand and to be served something that then you have to deal with as a consequence of not being responsible or not having your boundaries in the right place, or having been deceptive and the other party reacts to you, is more challenging than at least being in conversation, acknowledging that the conversations might go all over the place, but at least you're in conversation. There's a way to mitigate a Saturnian response because you are pleasing Saturn and appeasing Saturn by saying, all right, I'll deal with this. I'll show up in my most responsible and disciplined manner. All right, my friends, as I said, membership information and reading information is in the description box below. Unbelievable. This is a 20-minute video. But it's a very focused week. And I've already told you what's happening next week. The Sun conjuncts the North Node of Neptune. So this awareness of an action being taken to stabilize the Pisces part of the chart to the best of your ability, so that when Venus and Mercury come back into Pisces in April and then go direct, resolutions can be reached and you can start to move in the direction that you want with fewer energy leaks. and with greater freedom to move in the direction that you want to move in. Okay. There's a thanks button underneath this video. You can use that to contribute to the channel. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, please go ahead and do so. And when you do so, there's a bell icon on top with that subscribe button. Click on the wiggly bell on top. You'll be notified when I do new videos. Information on donating to the channel is also in the description box below. You can support the channel for free by liking the video or by commenting on it. If you wish, and that gives the video greater circulation on YouTube, feel free to tell friends or anybody who you think will benefit from this content as well. Okay? Sign-specific videos are on their way. On their way. For the full moon lunar eclipse in Virgo. And remember, with the full moon lunar eclipse, these eclipses continue all the way to February 27. Some of you are going to feel this eclipse as an eclipse. A lot of you are going to feel the eclipse, the core of the eclipse between August, September of this year and February, March of next year, when we actually have a solar eclipse in Virgo and a lunar eclipse in Virgo together, kind of bracketing that. But some of you will feel it in this eclipse. You know, the new moon, the full moon lunar eclipse in video that I did will give you more details on that. And for those of you who choose to become members, the sign-specific content will give you more information on that. Okay? Thank you, folks. More to follow. I think the next video, gosh, I keep wanting to do this video on Mars direct. And it hasn't been an issue because Mars is moving pretty slowly. But next week, this coming week, I think I need to do videos on Mercury going retrograde first by Tuesday, and then the Mars direct video, and then the new moon in Aries video. I think that's going to be the sequence. Or maybe I do the Mercury and the Mars videos, and it's time to do the weekly overview, and then the new moon. The new moon in Aries is not till March 29th, so we're fine. But just planning it out in my head. All right, enough. I wish you a successful week. Saturn's energy is conducive to successful outcomes. We've just got to show up with integrity and clarity and maturity and wisdom, non-reactive. If a stationary Mercury tests you, try your best not to lose it. Be compelling, be accurate, get in front of things. Okay. I'll be in touch soon. Take care.